guys, welcome to Books Amaze. My name is Apni and I wish all of you guys a very happy new year. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite books that I read in the year 2020. I know that I'm a little late to join the party, but I guess it's better late than never, right? Now, these are not the books that were published in 2020. These were just the books that I happened to read in 2020. And there's no particular order here because all of these are very different books. They are very different from one another. One would be fiction, one would be non-fiction, one would be a graphic copy, one would be an audiobook version that I listened to. So this is a mixed bag of everything. But let me start with the very first book. So the very first book that I want to talk about is called The Handmaid's Tale, written by Margaret Atwood. This original book was published in the year 1985, but I read the graphic version, which was published, I guess, in 2019 or 2020. But I will specifically talk about the graphic version here, which I absolutely loved. So the plot of this book is that this is a dystopian world completely, and it is set in the current United States, but it is here called Republic of Gilead, and it's a totalitarian government now, and there are very few people left, and the women are, of course, kind of oppressed. It's a patriarchal society, so there are commanders, there are wives of commanders, and then there are a lot of women, because now in this land there are very few women left who are fertile. So all of these women are captured by the commanders in a place, and they are called handmaids. So their whole and sole purpose is to birth the child of these commanders. So once in every month they get physical with the commander, of course against of their will, and whoever doesn't or can't bear a child, she dies, like she's murdered. So this is a very gruesome, sad kind of a book, and this whole story is narrated by a woman named Offred. So Offred's sole purpose is also the same as I mentioned, but Offred still remembers her past, and she was kind of a rebel girl. So she opposes all of this which is happening around her, and she somehow tries to get out of it. So what happens throughout the journey? Would this end? Would all of the women get out of it? What would happen? For that you'll have to read the book, but I specifically want to recommend you the graphic version because there are a lot of colors mentioned in this book. Like, for example, all the handmaids wear a red colored dress, like a long robe. All the commanders' wives wear blue colored dress. All the unmarried girls wear white, I guess. All the widows wears black. So all of those colors are beautifully depicted in the graphic version, and I'm sure you're gonna fall in love with that book when you read the graphic version. So definitely recommend that. So the next book that I want to recommend here is called Digital Minimalism, written by Cal Newport. I also read a book called Deep Work, written by Cal Newport as well, and I loved it. So I thought, let's give this book a try too. And I guess we all need some advice on how we can minimize our phone time, our screen time, and I guess we all used our phones way too much in 2020. So this would be a perfect book if you are also looking for something like that. I must say that this is not like a mind-blowing kind of a book. You'd already know a lot of things that are mentioned in this book, but I like that Cal Newport gave a lot of alternatives and kind of explained them very well in this book, like what else you can do when you're already in the process of trying to minimize your phone usage. For example, I've noted down some points here. He says, spend time alone to gain solitude. Leave your phone at home. Take long walks. Reclaim conversations. Reclaim leisure. Write letters to yourself. Fix or build something every week. Join something. Dump down your smartphone. And I actually incorporated some of these in my daily habits as well. Like, for example, I have muted all the notifications in my phone, so I don't get any more notifications of Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, which I earlier used to do, and I just went to my phone and used to spend hours on there. So that doesn't happen anymore. I have joined the gym, so I'm very excited for every day to go there and like talk to everybody, get that adrenaline rush and everything. So that is an activity that I look forward to every day instead of using my phone, instead of knowing what's happening in the world of influencers. So these are some tips that would actually benefit you if you are trying to find something like that. Now the next book that I want to recommend here is called The Reader, which was written by Bernhard Schlink. This was a brilliant book. Like, if you like to read fiction, and especially if you like to read stories that revolves around the World War II era, all of what happened in the concentration camps era, you would definitely like this book. This book actually focuses on the afterlife of what happened in Auschwitz through a very unique, very eerie kind of love story, which would make you very uncomfortable at a lot of places. But I think that's the beauty of this book, that it will make you uncomfortable, but still you would be hooked to this book to know what happens next. And the characters, I fell in love with both the male female characters, and there's also a movie based on this in which Kate Winslet played the main lead. I haven't watched the movie yet because I'm afraid that it would take away all the feelings, all the raw feelings that I got from this book. But for Kate Winslet, I might watch it someday. But I loved this book. Now my next book recommendation is called Seriously I'm Kidding by Ellen DeGeneres. I listened to this book in the audiobook format and I loved that book. If I would have read this book in the textual format, I might not have liked this book that much. And honestly, the audiobook narration is very funny, it's very hilarious. But please don't take this book seriously. Don't try to find something substantial in this book because you won't. But if you like Ellen, if you like her personality, if you have watched her shows, if you have watched her videos, and if you have liked how she talks, how she behaves, her comedy style, then you'll definitely like this book, especially the audiobook version, because there are lots of voice modulations. She has talked about her personal life, her coming out story, about her marriage, about her personal professional challenges, how she got the role of Finding Nemo. There's a full chapter where she's talking about that part in Finding Nemo's voice. And there are lots of funny anecdotes in this book. So if you like Ellen, then you will surely like this book, but do give it a try in the audiobook format. My fifth recommendation is The Palace of Illusions, written by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. This is a retelling of our Indian epic Mahabharata through the point of view of Draupadi. Now I love to read retellings of our Indian epics, but this was the very first time when I read one through the point of view of a woman. So I was very fascinated by that. It starts from her birth and it ends with her death, and she has some very unique points to depict, to say what she was feeling in those instances when the war was happening, whatever happened after the war, what was her equation with her parents, with his brother, with his friends, with Lord Krishna. That was a very interesting part. And what was her equation with her husbands, her kids, all the hardships that she had to face, what was her attitude in that, how she carried herself. There are positives of her personality, there are negatives of her personality. All in all, it was a very good and interesting read for me. But there was just this one thing that I could not resonate with, which was the love angle that was shown between Draupadi and Karn. When I read that, I thought, this is too much now, I cannot digest this. But keeping that thing aside, I really like this book. I found it very interesting, and if you like to read such books, if you like to read this genre, then I think you can give it a try. My next recommendation is To Kill a Mockingbird, written by Harper Lee. Now this is a classic book, and this again I read in a graphic book format. This story is narrated by a 6-year-old girl named Scout Finch, who lives with his father Atticus Finch and his brother Jeremy in the town of Macomb, Alabama. Now at that time there was a lot of discrimination, there was a lot of racism against black people. They were not considered as equal as whites. And then there happens to be a case where a black man was falsely accused of raping a white woman, and that case was handed over to Atticus Finch. So how he fights that case against all of this discrimination, being a white person. And then there was also a subplot of Scout and Jeremy, who were afraid of their neighbor, which was called Boo Radley. I'm sure you must have heard of Boo Radley somewhere over in the stories while you were growing up. So these two plots are going side by side, and this book is humorous at places. This book will teach you a lot of life lessons. This book will teach you about equality. This book will teach you how to respect each and every one. But it's not a very preachy kind of book. It has a proper story, and it's a very interesting story. But if you don't understand the language of the actual book, or if you find it hard, I strongly recommend you to give the graphic book a try, which I read, and I'm sure you'll like it. My next recommendation is Halabaloo in the Guava Orchard, written by Kiran Desai. How interesting is the name, isn't it? Halabaloo in the Guava Orchard. So I am always on the lookout for good Indian books, especially in the humorous category. I hardly find one. Like for example, I remember reading Mrs. Funny Bones, hoping that it would be funny somewhere down the line, but it was not. And I ended up cursing myself to pick up that book. Like, it was not funny at all. So this book's main character is called Sampath, who works in a post office. He's kind of a lazy guy. He doesn't have much ambition in his life, because of which his family, his father especially, is always worried like what Sampath will do later on in his life, what will be his future and all. But one day, without thinking anything, Sampath quits his job. He goes to a guava tree, he climbs it up, and he just decides to stay there. He doesn't come down. He doesn't go to his house, he doesn't want to come down, he just wants to stay there. And then things starts getting ugly, and everybody starts coming to that guava tree, and eventually they give him the status of a guru or something, of a very known learned person. I don't want to tell you the whole story, but this is a very interesting story, and you'll definitely have a laugh riot reading this book. If you like to read absurd stories, if you like to read satire, if you like to read eccentric, crazy characters, then this is the book for you. The next book that I read and really liked in 2020 is called Elon Musk. The book's name is Elon Musk, and it was written by Ashley Vance. So it's kind of a biography, you can say, of Elon Musk, and he narrated everything to Ashley Vance. And that was also a very interesting story behind how Ashley Vance got to convince Elon Musk to write this story, because a lot of authors wanted to do that, of course, but Ashley Vance was the one who got this deal, and how it happened was also a very interesting story in this book. But this book consists of everything that you need to know about Elon Musk. Where was he born, what was his backstory, what his parents were doing, what was their grandparents were doing, their backstory, about all of his companies, how he started, where he went to school, where he went to college, what are all of his companies. There are mentions about SpaceX, Tesla, PayPal, everything is there. And it's described in a way that you'll feel like you are there. Like, I remember one chapter where he was talking about SpaceX office, about Tesla's office, and it was so vividly described. I could imagine myself, I could picturize myself roaming around in Tesla's office. And now that he is declared the richest man in the world, you have all the reasons to give this book a try. Although this was a heavy book, but I didn't get bored at all. And this book also involved lots of colored pictures that were pictures of his family members, about him growing up, him as a child. So that kept the whole thing interesting. And if you are anyway interested in reading about and knowing about Elon Musk, you should definitely read this book. My ninth recommendation is a book called Wonder, written by R.J. Palacio. Now this story is about a boy named August who was born with a facial deformity, and he was being homeschooled by his parents. But when he was the age of going to 5th grade, his parents decided to send him to a school and give him a normal life. But then all the challenges started. You can imagine, when a kid with lots of facial deformities would go in a normal school, what would happen with him. So there are lots of bully stories and all of that. But what makes this book really interesting and lovable is that there are short chapters, and all the chapters are narrated by different point of views. So like, for example, there would be one chapter which was narrated by August's point of view. Then there would be one chapter which was narrated by his sister's point of view. There would be one by his friend's point of view. There would be one by his sister's boyfriend point of view. So everything surrounds August only, but they would tell what they feel of August and what is the impact of August being in their life. So that would give you a lot of new perspective. Like, this is not a simple, good versus evil kind of a story. This has lots of nuances in that, which I really like. And especially this book is really good for kids to read. If you want to read to your kids, if you want to install the values of respecting everyone, of respecting the differences, you should definitely read this book to your kids. They love it. And even for yourself, if you like to read children books, this is not one to miss. And the 10th and last book that I want to mention is a Murakami book called South of the Border, West of the Sun. I think this was my 5th or 6th Murakami read. I'm not sure. I've lost the count, I guess. But I absolutely love to read Murakami. I am sure that this was not the best of his book that I've read till date. But nonetheless, this was an amazing ride in itself. More so because it surrounds around two characters. Like, the main two protagonists of this book are single child. They are the only child, and I am also the only child. So the main characters of this book are called Hajime and Shimamoto. Hajime is the boy, Shimamoto is the girl. They were kind of very good friends and sort of lovers in their teenage years, Then Hajime got married to somebody else. Now he is in his 30s. He's kind of going through a midlife crisis, and he meets this girl Shimamoto again in that phase of his life. So they start having an affair and whatnot. But you know, if you have read Murakami, nothing goes in a linear pattern. And of course, this book also has those music angles, those love angles, a little bit of sadness, a little bit of erotica, a little bit of eeriness, weird things happening out of the box. But moreover, I love this book because of that single child angle. And I felt like I could connect with those characters on a human level. I could feel what they were feeling. I could understand why they were feeling lonely and how could they not communicate properly with people around them. But I'm always in awe of this man's writing. Like, I'm always recommending everybody to read a Murakami book, whichever it is, but just read a Murakami if you like to read books. So you'll definitely find a Murakami book in my yearly recommendations, that's for sure. So this was it. This was all of my top 10 book recommendations. I hope you like it and you would have read one of these books. If you did, please mention which of the books that you read in 2020, which were the books that you fell in love with and you'd like to recommend to each one. And please make sure to follow me on other platforms as well if you like my content. And also, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. It would make me feel so happy and it would boost my confidence to make more such videos as well. So I'll see you soon with another video with another bookish topic, and thank you for watching this video.